So welcome everyone to the class today. We always call these our feature classes, meaning is they're not ones that we're going to have every month. We might just, run them here and there. I know we're going to have a feature class in a couple of months on a product that we have called GrassPay. We're going to run a class on Excel, using an Excel, once you open up a report in Excel data only, how you can manipulate the data and so forth. So kind of watch for those coming. So today's class is going to be discussing some of the new enhancements that we brought into the Grasp Data product over the last year, as well as towards the end of the class, again, favorite reports. As I say in all of my classes, I don't like to mute people on my side, so if you do have some background noise, please go ahead and mute yourself. And also, though, I do like the class to be interactive, so if you have a question, by all means, don't hesitate to ask. I do keep an eye on the chat window as well, so you're welcome to do that. So the first thing we're going to discuss here is our multi-dash. And I should start by saying that everything we're going to talk about today is on our Help tab. So if you click on the Help tab within Grasp, there is a video, and I'm not going to go over in a ton of detail the multi-dash, but there are 3 videos of how to create a new layout, how to add widgets, and how to create a full page. So all of those are 3 different videos right here on the Help tab. There's also a document where all of them are run together into one document under multi-dash. Another thing just to point out, as long as we're already on this tab, we are going to be talking about our interactive arrival departure report, and the document for that is here on the text document tab as well. So previously, our dashboard was just allotted 1 page. You could do 12 tiles, 3 across and 4 down, and that's kind of what this one is here. And if you notice, here I have air volume by month, and let me see what I was filtering it by, previous 2 years. So, the numbers are all kind of smushed in here. So the nice thing about the multi-dash is, one, you can create the widget sizes in whatever size works best for you. So if you notice here, and I'm going to kind of go through some of these with a little more detail, but if you notice here, I can create a widget that's the width of my page, so now that data is more spread out and not so smushed. So to create a widget in different sizes, or just to even use the ones we already have, under Dashboard Layout Builder, this is where you can go to create your own layouts. Now, there are some that we already have in there. I believe the ones that say standard. So this is a 3x3 standard. This is one where the top is a banner and the remainder are just the smaller sizes. This is the original version, the 3 across, 4 down, and then there's a full page. But then I have my own that I've added in here. If you want to create a layout, you just click Create Layout. You would give your layout a name. You could have up to 6 columns and up to 6 rows. So based on how big you want to make it. Variable and fixed. Variable means that the widgets themselves, so the actual squares or rectangles themselves, will adjust based on the screen you're actually using. Fixed means they will always be that size. And then you would just literally hit Create Grid once you have it set up. You can always, I'll kind of go into one of mine. You can always delete a grid, or I should say layout. Now it'll tell you if it's being used by a page, and if so, that page will also be deleted. So it will give you a little warning. And again, you can add as many as you want. We have not seen where there is a maximum of how many different layouts you can have. If you accidentally delete the standard layouts, right here, Add Standard Layouts is a button that you can click on. Then, once you've created your layout, if you notice I have 5 pages, and I could even have more. To create a new page, right here on the far right, little tab with a plus sign. And then you're going to be able to choose what layout you want. You give your page a name. And then what layout do you want to use? So you can use one of the standards or ones you've created. What theme? This is the background. I'm actually going to show air volume again. I know I just kind of clicked on it quickly. You can have each page set up completely differently. Do you want to have a border, corner, shadow? You know, you see a little shadow here on the boxes. Do you want the menu to always show? The footer to always show? Then once you hit save, it's going to create that new page, take you right to it. And now notice that that layout had one straight across and then two for each of the other rows. And then I could just click on where the widget spot is and add in my information. So maybe I want this to be, you know, air volume by month for a specific account. If you are an agency admin or user, then you can use it for any corporation. I can have it whether I want it to be showing in numeric or percentages. And then the filter information is here. So here's where you're going to pick your date range. Go ahead and do, let's do previous 2 years. I can choose if I want it to just be for a specific corporation or remove all but that corporation. Clicking on the box. Again, if you're not an agency user, you won't have that option because the only data you will see will be your own data. And then hit save, and now there's my data. Again, because I chose footer and header, all of that information is here. If I drag and drop, which I still can, try that again. There we go. It just resizes it. When you are looking at the tab here, notice that it gives you a little bar, little extra menu. I can make that my default page. I can print it. I can duplicate it. So maybe you get a page set up exactly how you want it. You want to duplicate it and maybe just change a couple things. You can do that. And then the other thing that you can do is you can set it up if I click on page settings. So this is settings for the page. Filters, I can use page filters. So maybe I've set up a page and I want the entire page to be for a specific corporation, for a specific date range. I can absolutely do that. Once I hit save, all of my grids are the same. Let me find one with some more grids. So we'll go over to this one. Am I already using page settings? I might be. I see a lot of, oh no, that one says 7-1. Okay, so notice that some of these are all of last year. This one is July, so maybe last 6 months. Most of them I probably did last, well, that one's just last month. So if I click on page settings and filter it and use override, maybe just do previous arc week. So now all of those have been updated. If I decide I want to go back and notice right up here, now there's a little filter and it tells me how I'm filtering it. Issue date, previous arc week. To change that back, just click on the little page settings, turn off the page filters, hit save, and now everything goes back to the individual widgets. You can move the pages around. You can, and as I was showing earlier, there's different colorings you can use, you know. Oops, I'm getting a little background noise from someone. If everyone can make sure that they're muted if they're not asking a question, that would be great. Any questions on our dashboard, our multi-dashboard before we move on? Hopefully people are already using it. This came out last spring, but I mean, I work support desk and I go in and quite often I don't see, you know, a lot of people using it. So it's a great functionality because it allows you, you know, you could set it up for different date ranges for different accounts. It's just a really nice way to get more data at your fingertips. And all of the same functionality applies that you can still, you know, click within a part of the picture to get the drill down. So all of that same functionality that you had before with the one page is still there. You just have additional options for the way your filter or your grids look, additional pages, and the ability to override the entire page with filters. Okay. We can certainly circle back. So if anyone, decides they want to ask a question later on, we certainly can circle back. So the next thing to talk about is the one of my favorite things, the favorites filter. So right here in the upper part next to inactive report is a little button, favorites. And when you are on the My Reports page, you'll notice that there's a star icon under the options. And if you check if you actually take maybe there's a report that you like and you click on, let me see if I can find one that I haven't already added in. Oh, we'll add in advanced purchase with sorts. So once you click, you find maybe this is a report I know I'm going to use. I need something with 2 sort fields. Just clicking on the star refreshes the screen, and then that report shows with a yellow star. Then, if I just want to see the reports that are my favorites, I toggle that on, and the only reports that are returned, so in this case I have 42 of them checked, are my favorites. Now, the 2 things I really love about this feature is, 1, the favorites are user defined. Unlike categories, which are going to be across your entire database, if you have, multiple users in your database, everyone sees that report under the same category. There's not really a way to make it your own. But favorites is user defined. So the reports that you've selected as your favorites could absolutely be, different from someone else's. And it's a nice way, maybe you're kind of scrolling through reports looking for something and you run across one that you really like. It's not really what you're looking for at that time, but you want to revisit it. Just click on the star and then it makes it so much easier for you to find it next time. The other thing I really love about this is the favorites filter stays enabled until you either turn it off or log out. So if I want to filter to find something within my favorites, I can use the quick search or my column grid filtering, and it will still maintain this as the hierarchy. So if I know I want a traveler report, it's only giving me back the ones that I have favorited. It's not bringing me back anything that just says traveler. And if I clear that filtering, I'm still set up in my favorites. You can also access your favorites from the report scheduling. So when you are creating a batch, you can enable it there so that you're, again, just filtering through to only see your favorites. There's also a dashboard tile called My Favorites. I personally always run my reports from the My Reports, but we do have clients that use a dashboard widget for running reports. So there's a My Reports, which gives you all of the reports, and then My Favorites. So that is its own dashboard widget. And this is actually very new. This just came out, I think, within the last couple of months. For the user settings, I'll actually pull up my own user. Or maybe I'll do it under one of my test users. In the settings of a user, there's already the landing page. That was done a couple years ago, where you can set it to just land on the My Reports instead of the dashboard if you're not someone who uses a dashboard. But you can set it up so that as soon as you log in, it automatically just shows your favorites. And then anytime you log in and go to the My Reports page, it's only going to automatically be enabled with the star icon, and you'll only see your favorites. And again, that stays enabled until you either log out or uncheck it. So the filtering can be done all throughout while you're maintaining only staying in your favorites. Any questions on that? Are people already utilizing that? Hopefully. This has been out, I would say maybe a good 6 months or so. And like I said, this was something I was really pushing for because we know we have a really large library of reports, and wonderful. Someone is saying they use it and love it. We know the report library is very extensive, and so we are trying to make it easier for clients to really narrow down the list of reports that they use on a regular basis, and this is a great way to do that. Okay. So the next thing to go into is this was something that was added in. I'm going to use one of my accounts that I use all the time. If you're an agency administrator and you add in corporations, you set up your new corporations, you probably already know that once you create a corporation, the other main thing you need to do is add the account or accounts into that corporation. So it used to be where you kind of had to look and add them all one at a time. And in fact, here, let me do this. Okay. It used to be that you had to add them one at a time, but now they have check boxes. So if you start within, let me clear this out so you can start with a clean slate again. So you can either look it up by the interface ID number, by the company name. If you're pulling in multiple data sources, that should even show. So once you start typing in a particular partial verbiage, number, what have you, it'll narrow that down. And then notice that at the very top, there's actually where it just says name. If you check that box, it checks all of them. So maybe you're pulling in a corporation and you know there's 10 divisions under that corporation. They're all called similar things. So you kind of put in a partial keyword, you can check all of them. And then you would just click add account and it would add all of them. So again, it used to be that you had to add them all one at a time, but now you can do it automatically. I'm actually going to delete them all and show you again. You can do certainly, just a handful, and then it would little by little add in the accounts that you needed. So again, just a nice way to make it a little faster to utilize adding the accounts. Okay. Any questions on corporations or adding accounts? And then let me check the checkbox. No? Okay. So the next thing to talk about is under history. And let me just take... it used to be back in the day, a couple years ago before we did our new version, that you could click on, right-click on the document itself. It used to be where you'd actually click on, because there was like a little PDF or a little Excel doc, you would right-click on that. Now what they've done is they've made the verbiage with a hyperlink. So when you right-click on it, you get, if you copy the link address, you can actually paste that in, and then I'll send it to myself. Then when that comes through to your client, that is the link to open up the report. So you do have the ability when you're emailing reports to either send them as an attachment or a hyperlink. And if you do send items as a link, so if you do send them, in this format, please be aware that it is linking to the file address here in report history. Meaning because our reports only stay in report history 6 months, they automatically drop off out of report history at 6 months. It's a rolling deletion. If you send a client a file or you send something to yourself, you email it as a web link, and 9 months later you go back and click on that link, it's not going to pull up that report. you are going to get that error 404 no file found error. And so if you do have a client that you send web links versus attachments, just make sure you let them know that if it is something they want to save for longer than 6 months, to make sure they download it and save it somewhere on their computer. But it's just such a nice, quick, easy way, if you do like using web links, to just literally right click, again, copy link address, paste it into an email, and go. So actually, we'll do it from here. So when we're talking about web links, when you're emailing reports, another new functionality is web links password protected. Attachments is always the default, but web links has been there for a while, for the entire time, where you can send it and it shows up just like what the email I just sent. But what's new is this password protected. And we do actually have quite a few clients that send attachments, or send it instead of attachments as web links, maybe because their client has a firewall that prevents them from getting attachments, or for security reasons, whatever the case may be. So web links has always been there, but now this web links password protected, if there is someone who wants an added layer of security, you would check that box and assign it a password. So there we go. It's going to tell you here if your password strong and so forth. Do I want to email? Probably good to email it to them at first, unless you're just going to call and give it to them over the phone, or email it yourself separately. It will only email. Now, granted, I'm in report history, so this is a one-off anyway. But if you are setting this up within a batch and you fill it out like this, it will only email it to them when you hit save. It won't email it to them every time the batch runs. So just be aware of that. If you're doing this within a scheduled batch, make sure you tell your recipient to save that password, because it will not email that password every time the batch runs. So this again is just a way, and let me show you what that looks like. So what do I have? Training one. Okay. Once I hit, oops, no recipients. I guess I need to put myself in. There we go. Okay, so email has been sent. I'll take a look over here on my email. So I got 2 emails. First is my password, which I'll copy and paste here. And then there is my web links. It'll first give you this box here. You have to click the I'm not a robot to allow the download report to become functional. Oh, goodness gracious. See, this happens to us too. I think I got them all. There we go. And now there's my report. Also, just as an FYI, if you are ever sending a file that is too big to go either from our server or to the server of the recipient, and you're sending it as an attachment, if you get a call saying, hey, or if you get a question that it's actually sending it as a web link, why is that? It's most likely because the file or files, if you're sending them all in one email, are too big to go from server to server, so it converted them to web links. So the client would just need to then click on the web links, save them as attachments, and because it'll still, of course, open to either being a PDF or an Excel doc. Any questions on web links or utilizing the link here? No? The last thing to show here before we move over to our favorite reports is, this has been out for a little bit, but I'm just, I was kind of thinking of it when I was going through some of the different tips and tricks. Disregard the red that you're seeing here. You're only seeing that because you're looking at my screen. I'm a super admin. I'm not even just an admin. I'm a level higher, obviously, because I work with Grasp. So this is a way for us to see the coding that's done on a report. But anytime you see a hyperlink like this, if you click on this, it will actually take you right into the batch. So if maybe you ever need to change a batch or do anything, it will take you right there from report history. Same with users. If you're looking at a user and you need to actually click in to get to the corporation, you can do so there. So just a little tip in case people are unaware of that. So we're going to move on to our favorite reports, but is there any questions on on some of the things we covered? No? Okay. Before I move on to reports, there is something that's going to be coming pretty soon, probably within the month or so. So just be watching the newsletter. If you're not on the list to get the newsletter and you want to be, just shoot an email to training@grasptech.com or support. I'm going to be watching both of them today, actually. And let me know that you want to be added to the newsletter list, and I'll be happy to forward that off to our marketing team. We're going to be having an update on the way our sort reports work. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, this report 755, air activity by passenger with sorts 1, 2, and 3. And maybe you have an account and they actually in their profile have 8 sorts. The report itself will still pull in 3 sorts, but instead of it being always sort 1, 2, and 3, you're going to be able to tell the report which 3 sort fields. So if maybe you're running this report and you actually want it to be for sorts 4, 5, and 6, or 4, 5, and 8 within that settings corporation layout here, let me kind of go through. Let me show you what I mean for those that may not be familiar. So with my demo ink, I think I only have 3 sorts in here. So let's say you had filled out more of these, and this is generally just used if you want to pull in unique information for a client, you know, a project number, cost center, referred by, approved by, that kind of thing. And where are you pulling it from? You did. So if anyone has questions on that, we can absolutely address that at the end, or you can email support. But we do have a lot of clients who utilize, you know, several sort fields and sometimes may want it to be for different ones that aren't the first 3. Or we'll have people, we've been getting questions quite a bit that say, you know, you've got this report, it pulls in sort 4. If you notice some of our reports, you know, by sort 2. This one's sort 4. So maybe you love a report, but instead of it being for sort, you know, 1, you actually want it to be for sort 3. So you're going to be able to, when you actually run the report, what you'll see is, and I don't have it in this version, it's in our test environment still, but there will be a little item that you can check to tell it which sort fields you want it to access. So again, just watch for that. That's coming soon. We'll make a big splash about it in our newsletter, and I will be putting together a document for it that will attach to the newsletter. So just keep an eye out for that. Again, if you're not on the list to get the newsletter, let me know, and I'll be happy to forward your information over. Any questions before we move on to looking at our favorite reports? No? Okay. Well, I had my favorite reports. Oh, there we go. It's a PDF. Sorry. So this sheet, again, was attached to the meeting, and I'm happy to send it to whoever, you know, can't access and download it. It's only a 2-page document. By all means, it's not our full list of reports, but it kind of goes through some of the reports that the support team recommends on a regular basis. You know, what ones do we like to recommend that we find kind of work well with other reports? There's one that I actually just put in the newsletter and blast email last week about the online summary with rollover months, and how there are 5 reports that tie to that, so that you know that the totals will all match, all of that good stuff. So the first handful is some of our traveler activity reports. This one grasps standard detail. I'll show you 13834. This is a great report to use because it just pulls in so much data. So it does it by passenger. It gives some high fare and low fare information. It breaks out the car and hotel, gives a total trip cost, has fields in there for sort information. So it really does give a lot of great information. So that's one of that our traveler activities. The others, if you notice, most of them use the word traveler. Again, the standard detail is an exception on that. So when you're looking, keyword traveler is a good one to use. And the difference between our traveler activity and things like air activity, car, so forth, is traveler activities are not hard-coded to only return specific data type, or booking type, I should say. So obviously our air activities are returning air, probably rail, service fee sometimes, depending on what the title is called. Car and hotel, obviously just bring back car and hotel. But we do get people saying, oh, I love this, air report, but I want to be able to get car and hotel on it. So then you want to look at what the traveler activities are. So 838 is one of my favorites. Let me go to that one, and actually let me go to my... So 838, here we go, is our traveler activity with summary. And this one is nice because it actually gives you a summary at the very end. I think it has a great layout. Again, gives you some totals per booking type as well as per traveler. And let me move my GoToMeeting. And as I was saying at the bottom, it gives you a summary for each traveler. So that one's a great one. And then the one below it that I have is very similar, Report 839. This one just has year-to-date cost at the end and the summary. So those I really like. The next one, our next grouping, I should say, is our management reports. So some of the keywords that I have in here, things like management, executive, account, year over year. So I have a handful here. The difference between, in fact, let me go back to these. The difference between the ones that say rollover and not rollover, so let's go with our, and I actually don't know if I have the ones that aren't rollover. Oh, I do. Okay, so here is our regular travel management summary, 938, our original. And if you notice, it's always going to start with the January. So even if I were on a fiscal year where it was maybe July through June, it's always going to start with January. So again, you would want the rollover month because that's going to always start with the date range that you're pulling. So if I'm starting with my pulling it as July through, March, it's going to always start with the month that I'm asking for. Next items here, I love this account sales revenue period report. So let me show you that one. There we go. Report 935, it's one of my favorites. This is a great year over year, or previous period, I should say, obviously, because it's going to do no matter what. So whenever you run the report, if you're running it for December of 2019 or all of 2019, it's going to give you the exact same period for that, same time frame for that previous year's period, and the differences, and it breaks it out by account. Now, on the example here, it's just showing air, car, hotel. It may show more than that for you. Our demo data doesn't have anything more than air, car, hotel. You may get things like service fee and so forth. I don't think that it's pulling in only specific types, but that's a really nice one to use to get a comparison.
Hey, this is Sean. Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
On that report you just showed, the account sales revenue period, is it hard-coded to provide the revenue based on vendor payment date, or will it only run on the issue date or departure date as you said it?
It's running on issue date, yep.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Let me check don't see anything in chat. Great. And then, of course, we have some executive summaries. Again, you can always type in, keyword executive, and that will give you, I'm actually filtered for favorites. We have more than that. So that's a good one to see, specific executive summaries. And if you want to see graphic, notice that we have that are several that it will always say. So any of our reports that have graphs will always say graphic in the title. And that way you can see that. Our executive summaries do always have the graph as a January start. So even if you are pulling in, like for example, this sample that they have in here is looking at April, but it's still giving you just January through April. You could certainly try, someone is asking about the account summary with service fees and revenue. We could certainly take a peek at that at the end. Again, I'm so used to my dummy data. A lot of times I have to go into a client's login to run it because chances are it will have more information. Anytime I run a report in my own login, I'm just seeing air, car, and hotel because that's all we have in our dummy data. But it may very well have service fees, but we can take a look at that, Jennifer, at the end. So again, graphics will always have a graphic in there. Another keyword that I'm not sure if I have on here or not is global. And that is, I do have it under air report. So we'll talk about that in a little bit then. Any questions so far on the traveler activity or management before we go into some of our crisis? No? Okay. So one of our new favorite reports, and this is the one that I had pointed out that we have the document for to show you how to best utilize this report, is our interactive arrival departure report. So a handful of the new reports that they've done over the last year, this one included, are, let me get rid of that, are interactive. So let me find, here we go. It will be, if you are on our main server, it'll be report number 19896. Oops, someone's saying I'm cutting out. Is my audio not working well? Can everyone hear me okay?
Hear you fine.
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Yes, just fine.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, I apologize. It may just be your audio. So 19896 is the report number if you're on our main server. If you're on your own server, it'll be a different number most likely, but it will always be the same name, GRASP Interactive Arrival Departure Report. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one. Notice that there's no filtering. You're not going to filter when you're running it. You're going to filter inside the report. Now, I'm actually going to run it for just one particular account, but you could certainly leave it as all. And I'm not going to run it for issue date. We always suggest doing it one of two ways. Doing it either on the road, which will give you, like if I choose on the road for the 17th through the 20th, anyone who is on the road in those 3 days, and perhaps they left on the 10th and they're back on the 3rd, they're traveling back on the 30th, but they're still on the road in the date range of the 17th through the 20th. Segments arriving, departing between means they actually have travel air segments in those date ranges. So that's the difference between the two. You don't want to choose GDS bookings. Unfortunately, all of our reports will always give you all filters, even if they really don't apply. This is not a GDS report. It is a back office report, so you do not want to use GDS. So I'm actually going to use segments arriving, departing between. Let me pull some future dates here. And it's only an Excel template. There's no other options. I'm going to go ahead and hit run now. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long to load here. There we go. So when you open our interactive reports, and this is the same no matter which report you're going to open. So let me give it a moment here to load. The first thing you're going to want to do is click on Enable Editing. Then you will see, after I click that, Enable Content. The very first time we were showing this report, I cannot remember if it was just one person or if there was a couple, didn't get this Enable Content. It was something to do with the way their permissions were allowed within their own Excel software. So I kind of I can't remember who I worked with on my side to find the steps to update the permissions. So just if that happens, just try to work with your IT people to make sure that they allow to enable content, they allow the macros. So once I click on that, notice that sorry, I should have showed you. It didn't have any data filled in until I clicked on that. My apologies, I was a little too quick there. But if you don't click on enable content and then you start clicking on your tabs, they'll be blank. So you need to click enable content in order to do that. There's a little bit of information on the cover page, but again, we wanted people to be able to see how to run it. So we did create that document with our best suggestions. So the beautiful thing about this report is if any of you have used our real-time Where Are My Travelers report, report 1029, or again, a slightly different number if you're on a dedicated server, you are probably aware that if you needed to run it for multiple spots, like, for example, last year's hurricane that went up the East Coast, if you wanted to see who you had going in and out of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, so forth, you had to run each of those reports separately. You couldn't run one report to give you all 3 states. That is no longer the case. So you can filter within here. Now there's one tab that's arrivals and departures. We put a little bit limited information, but just to get it all on one page. Then we have an arrivals tab, which gives a little bit more information, and it actually still does show the departure city, departure, the reverse, cars and hotels. Again, if you've ever run a report, real-time Where Are My Travelers, you know that if you run it on the road, you get car and hotel. If you run it as segments arriving, departing between, it makes the reports a segment report, which then no longer shows car and hotel data. So what happened here, the way that the report writer created it, is the car and hotel tabs are hard-coded to use on the road as the date filter so that the data will fill. These 3 air tabs are using whatever you used when you ran the report. In my case, I used segment arrive depart between 120 and 123. So it's only going to give me air bookings that are between those date ranges. So now up here on the arrival, I can actually, again, I just chose Demo Inc. just to give me a smaller amount, but if you do all, it's going to give you every one of your accounts. I can uncheck the box and choose whichever account I want to run it for. I can look up just specific booking type. Again, I'm just getting air, but maybe if you have air, rail, that type of thing. Vendor, maybe there's an airline that their system is down. There's, they've gone out of business, or they're, you just need to check on clients that you have booked on that airline. Flight number, arrival city, arrival state. So again, this is when we almost always have Florida and Georgia. So this is when, and if there's data in there, that's when you will see it. So if there's not a country or a city or a state that's in this data, you will not see that option. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It refilters it, gives me only arrival to in Georgia and Florida. I can come over here, do departure state, do the same, click OK. And now I can scroll back over right here, this little gray tab, send all results. So if I want to make this a more print-friendly version, it even gives the agent ID. So if maybe you're trying to split it up to, reach out to customers by agent, you can absolutely even, and you could have filtered it by agent, of course, as well here. Whoops. You could have filtered it by agent ID as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So all of this information is based upon sales transactions, I presume. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what happens in the event of like a void transaction?
They are not on here.
Because I used this.
They shouldn't be on here.
I used this report the other day, and I had a reservation that had been voided. Maybe it had been voided in between the time that I had run the report and the new, but I just wanted to clarify that. So
Yeah,
thank you.
no, none of our, unless our reports are like, we do have a quality control report that is a void report, but generally none of our reports will show voided, unless it's a custom report that you've created to do that. But it will show like sales, refunds, exchange, that kind of thing. And I'd have to look back at this one when we first created it, but it should not be voids. So yeah, it could have just been a timing issue that it was voided in the back office and a sync hadn't happened yet to update it on our side.
I had the same thing happen, and when I checked with my team, it was that they voided it within that same day, and it just took 24 hours to update the report for us.
Correct.
So the next day I reran it, and it removed that reservation.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, just as an FYI, I know some of the people on the call are, are involved with like the back office and so forth, but generally what our clients are doing is all of the invoices, tickets, so forth that they're running that day, or voids, adjustments that they're making in the back office. Our sync is done overnight. So if you're, and again, it's also dependent on when the data is interfaced to your back office. So if your office is interfacing the data in the evening, the sync will pick that up. If you're not interfacing your data, all data run on Wednesday is not interfaced until Thursday morning, the Thursday night sync will pick that up. So for any new data. But if you're changing things in your back office by voids or updating, it should show up after the overnight sync.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So again, and you can obviously, this is an Excel spreadsheet, so you can save this if you want to send it. You can filter each tab individually. So this report is phenomenal. I just think it's going to be so useful this summer, as every year we seem to just have a couple of storms that really hit, and we get clients who are trying to run reports for specific locations, and this will be a nice way to get all data on one report. So again, on the Help tab is, there we go, is that document. So it's a PDF document that just gives you a couple of recommendations to do it either as on the road or segment arriving, departing between. Click Enable Editing, click Enable Content, and then filter within the report. So some of the other ones, the Real-Time Where Are My Travelers Report 1029, still a great report. You may still use that, on some of them. But again, our thought was we wanted something to be a little bit of a step above the Real-Time Where Are My Travelers in terms of being able to filter for multiple locations. That was probably the complaint we got more often than anything about our Where Are My Travelers reports, is that you couldn't do multiple locations. Things like 3 or more passengers on a plane. We also have 4 or more. That's just a policy report. You might have it where clients want to make sure that they don't have more than a few people traveling on a flight together. Advanced purchase summary graphic. So again, just some nice policy reports. I know we only have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of scroll through some of these without actually showing them. These two I do want to go through though. So again, take a peek at some of these. They give, if you are pulling in reason data, lost savings data in your back office, that will show on our reports. I want to talk about our insurance reports and our CO2 reports. So let me go back over here. I don't know if I have all of them tagged as favorites, so I'm going to disable my favorites here for a moment. So insurance reports are not to show what travel insurance your office is selling. It's more for your clients. Where are they traveling to? Because it might be their insurers that need to know this. So we have a couple. Our standard report is 81. But again, if you just use keyword insurance, this will show you by traveler where they've gone and how many days they were gone. There's also a summary that shows what countries and regions and how many days they traveled and what the spend was. So again, just using keyword insurance, there's a couple that have, one that has sort field, one that's more of a simple one. So just keep an eye out for those if you need something like that. The other one is we get a lot of questions about our CO2 reports. So there are 4. These are 2 that actually I probably should mark off, but 2 of them are for kilometers, 2 are for miles. Each one they're almost identical other than just that they're miles or kilometers. And then one just includes a sort field. So in case you needed some, pull in some sort information, in this case, it groups it by that. So just again, keyword CO2. I know we get people asking if we have carbon reports, so those are the ones we use. Some of our QC reports. If you have class of service, we'll get this question quite often at the support desk. Maybe you're running a report and it's showing business class, but it really should be coach. You actually have control over your own class of service table. This report number 9325, or class of service description, when you run that, it comes up like an Excel spreadsheet. And then what you would actually do is you would update the spreadsheet with, let's see if there's an example on here. There is, good. You would update, well, it's not super great. It's not showing it as an Excel, but no, it is. It's going to allow you to change your class of service. So you would go in, maybe class of service U for Delta is actually business. You would just update it, make whatever changes. It even says right here, don't delete, move, change any columns, even if those with null value. Make your changes, save it, send it to support, and we'll have that updated. And then your report will reflect the correct class of service when you run that. The account to corporation and corporation configuration review. These are 2 new reports that came out last year. And what these will do is the corporation account to corporation assignment will show you what accounts you have under each corporation. And by that I mean, if you remember when I was doing my Demo Inc., it had like 15 different accounts under it. So if you have multiple accounts under each one, it'll tell you, okay, you have, this many accounts under, these are the different account numbers you have. So actually, hold on, this is the wrong one. This one, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one first. This one shows you the corporation number, the name, and then the sorts. Oh, no, I'm right. My apologies. It's giving, sorry here. It's giving again, I'm dealing with demo data, so it's everything is ABC company, but it's going to give you the account number and then the corporation name so that you can see. We'll get people that are saying, oh gosh, I'm looking to see which different accounts I have under that corporation profile. That shows it to you. And then the configuration review shows you how you have your sorts set up for those corporations. So again, it's just a way to see how the corporations under the settings are set up without having to look at each of them individually. A lot of great air reports, ones with air detail by passenger, with class, with service fees. We'll look at those real quick. Air volume summary. Some have a graph, some are global. We have a great exchange ticket report, report number 87. So let me go through a couple of those with you real quick. So let's go here. So again, this one going back to the class of service, if the class is not coming up correctly, you just need to update your table. So air detail by passenger with class. The other one had with fees. So if you're wanting to show it with the service fee, this is nice. We recommend this report pretty frequently. We'll get clients who say they want it all on one line because they're running it as an Excel data only. So this report 1107 is one of our few reports where everything's kind of all in one line. So when you run it in Excel data only, it's a much easier read. in terms of the air and the service fees and then the total altogether. Going back just to show, let me show you some exchange reports, with 87 being one of our most common. Exchange ticket cost report. This is a great report to show the total cost of a ticket. Again, the samples kind of are a little elaborate because it's showing it, you know, one ticket number was used for several exchanges, but it's nice to see the full cost of what a ticket was. So that's report number 87, and you'll notice it says total ticket cost. And we do have some variations on that, but 87 is the starting point for that. And again, you know, some of our reports are global versions. What that means is it won't have any kind of like USD or dollar sign, any kind of denomination. And often the date ranges are more of a European style. And then, excuse me, you'll see some of the variations of the air details with sort information. I don't want to go into too much because I know we only have a couple minutes left, but lots of car reports and hotel reports that we really like. The last couple of ones to talk about are a few user or miscellaneous reports. If you are an agency admin and you want to know what users you have set up, who's all using the system, these reports can actually show you your different user types, what kind of reports they, how many reports they have, how many they're using, what do they have in their history, how many batches. So that's a nice report to just kind of keep an eye on that. The batch detail report, if your company uses batches, which I assume all of you do, the batch detail report gives you specific information about the logins that the batches are run under, what if are they set up to distribute, where they're going, how often they're going. So one of my all-time favorite reports, the batch detail report. And then lastly, our GRASP invoice report. This is a great report. Maybe you have clients and their travelers are not very good about turning in their expenses quickly, or they just want to verify some things. This is actually a report that will run invoices, and you can set it up to filter. So maybe you want to run it on a scheduled batch every week after the ARC report gets done, and it's for the previous week and it's for a particular department number or a particular traveler, and you want it to be sent to that traveler. So it's just it's a copy of each of the invoices that that organization has done. And again, it can be filtered, you know, dozens of ways. I know we went through everything very quickly here at the end. Is there any questions? I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes if anyone had some questions. No? Okay, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case anyone didn't want to ask a question in the group. Otherwise, thank you everyone so much for joining me this afternoon, and have a great rest of your day.